Hey y'all, it's your girl Toyia T, and today we have our Teen Summit edition. Super excited about this episode. For those of us that are at least like 35 and up, you'll remember Teen Summit from BET. I always wanted to be on the show, so I said, "Look, I'm gonna go ahead and create my own Teen Summit. Bring on some of the up and coming young people that know what's going on and are paying attention to what we're experiencing throughout our world, and not just our world, but this is their world, and in the future they're going to be running their own things and seeing how things unfold for them. So today we have Liberty Robinson and Bronston Larkin on. I'm going to let them do a brief introduction, talk to you a little bit about some of the things they're really excited about coming up for this school year, and then we're hoping that we have state senate hopeful Orlando Sonza join us at about the halftime. So we'll see. He has some things that popped up, but we're hoping that he'll still be able to join us and engage with our young people. So with that, let's get to the show. Hello, hello. And we also have Miss Jasmine Bush on the line with us as well. So I'm going to start by having you guys just do a brief introduction about who you are. Just tell us your name and then tell us a little bit about what you're excited about this year in your schooling. And then if you could also include your grade, what grade you're in. So we'll go ahead and have Liberty. Why don't we have you start?
Okay, I'm Liberty Robinson. I'm a junior at Lakota West. This year, I'm kind of just excited to get my junior over with so I can be a senior and get all my credits and classes over with and just have a good senior year.
Absolutely. And weren't you just recently like on homecoming or doing something like that?
Yeah, I was on homecoming court for my school.
Oh, okay. Was that exciting?
Yeah, it was pretty fun.
Okay. All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Next, go ahead. What were you going to say, Liberty? Okay. Next up, we'll have Bronson do his introduction.
Hi, I'm Bronson Larkin. I'm 18 years old. I'm a senior at Long Beach Poly High in California, and this year I'm excited for my recruiting process for football. I just got my first offer to Bethany College out of Kansas last week, so I'm really excited to see where my recruiting takes me for the rest of this year. So yeah.
Absolutely. Congratulations. And you guys are state champions, right?
Yeah, we won CIF championship last year, and right now we're number 22 in the country and number 4 in California right now. So we're trying to get back to that this year.
That's awesome. Well, do a shout out for your team. What's the name of the team?
Long Beach Poly Jackrabbits.
Okay, all right. All
Yeah.
right, last but certainly not least, I would like to have Jasmine Bush do an introduction. Who are you? What you're excited about?
Hi, I'm Jasmine, and what I'm most excited about probably the same thing he excited about football and my scholarships. I just recently applied to a HBCU in Atlanta called Clark University, and I'm getting scholarship or I'm having colleges reach out to me via email and tell me that they offer scholarships for football, not only football but wrestling. So I mean,
Okay.
all my opportunities or all my athletic opportunities.
All right. Well, we are glad to have all of you guys. We're going to start out with really just a conversation between us. And then we're hoping that State Senate candidate Orlando Sansa will join us at about the halftime for you guys to conduct the interview with him. So I want to start by asking you, you're all going to be adults really soon. And I know when I was about your age, I still had things on my mind that I was thinking about in terms of what the future might hold. So I'm curious, what keeps you up at night? What are some of the things that you think about your future that you would like to share with us? And either one of you guys can start.
I guess for me, something that I worry about a lot is definitely like if I'm gonna be successful or not, or if I'm gonna like disappoint my parents by not being like all that I think I can be like athletically, academically, and just like failure in general. Like I feel like that's what is a big fear to me.
Right. So just making sure that you stand up to what the expectation is, maybe of your parents, and then what your potential is as an individual. Does that sound right?
Yeah, yeah, you got it
Okay.
right on the head.
Okay.
That's
All right.
mhm.
And so, who else wants to answer that question? What keeps you up at night? What are some of the things that you think about that you worry about in terms of the future?
I think something that keeps me up at night is just like what hardships I will go through trying to get to where I want to be in life, and also like what happens if I don't make it to where I want to be in life.
Right. So thinking about what could happen that's not necessarily planned,
Hmm.
or what a barrier could be in order to get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Jazz?
Something that keeps me up at night is hard because it's like a lot of stuff, like personal about. Like I have my personal opinions and stuff, but probably making sure people around me are proud and like doing right by them. Because I've had so many people in my life, like people that have been just a positive mental life. Sorry, my background, but that have been a positive. Have just been one of the people that's hyping me up there along the way, and I want to make sure like I right by them. I do everything I got to do.
Right. Right. So you don't want to let anybody down. So it sounds like that's a common thread, that you want to make the people that have influenced your life proud, and you want to make sure that you hold up your end of the bargain of becoming who you are meant to be, right? Whatever your greatness is for you individually. So the second question that I have is more around what you want to be. Do you have a dream job? Is there a dream occupation? Do you have a dream? Like, what would we say? Like Martin Luther King used to say, do you have a dream?
Can I
If
go
so,
first?
what is it?
Can I go first?
Sure.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Basically, like with me applying to college, like I applied to college like 3-4 days ago. I picked a major. I picked political science and African studies because that's some of the things that I'm interested in. But I have no idea what I want to do.
Mm. And that's okay, right? I think a lot of times we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to figure out what we want to do, who we want to be. But there are people 40, 45, 50, 60 that are still trying to figure out what they want to do. So the fact of the matter is to always make sure that you are progressing, right? You're getting closer to whatever that thing might be, and that you're taking baby steps to move in that direction. It may not be that you have some silver bullet that's going to move you there, but it's those small steps that get you closer and closer to who you want to become. So, who else wants to answer that question? Liberty or Bronson? Do you have
Actually,
a dream? Do you have a dream job? What do you want to be?
mine is like the exact opposite. I've always known what I want to be. So I want to
Okay.
major in sports therapy and minor in criminal law. And sports therapy is just kind of just something to get me into just a career. And my ultimate goal is to become a lawyer and like make big waves in the world and make a difference.
Absolutely. And your name precedes you, right? So with a name like Liberty, you have no choice but to be successful.
Mm.
And so how did you decide that that's what you wanted to do? What were some of the
Growing
triggers?
up, like around where I'm from, and also just like my family and other things, see a lot of people like going through the struggle and like in and out of the system, and like the system doesn't really help them. So I feel like the best way to do it is work it from the inside out. So by becoming a lawyer, I can help like people of color or just people in general who the system fails them.
That's awesome. You definitely should look into NKU's. They have a JD MBA program, which I think you would really appreciate. They have a strong law degree, a strong law program, but then they also have an MBA program, a business program. So it gives you the best of both worlds as you're trying to figure that out. So just something to compare in terms of some of the other programs you might be looking at.
Mhm.
Last but certainly not least, Mr. Bronson, do you have a dream?
Yes, I definitely do. Like for me, ever since I was a kid, I always wanted to be a football player or a basketball player, just something to do with sports. But I wasn't blessed to be like 6'5". You know, for me, um, I've definitely like found some interest in like marketing and I really like I've always been obsessed with like advertisement and marketing. So I love like some of the stuff that they do with like Nike and Apple and stuff like that. So I definitely would see myself like in the marketing field.
Okay,
Things I
that's
want to be
awesome.
in. Hmm.
Okay. And as you continue, you'll be able to go deeper into marketing to say what part of marketing you want to do. As you learn a little bit more and you start taking on assignments, you'll be able to say, okay, this part of marketing I like, this part I don't like so much. Because there's a lot of different components to marketing. So last but certainly not least, we have another question about really just thinking about where you are now in comparison to where you want to go. What are some of what I would say, challenges that you might face, and what are some of the resources that you need in order to get you from where you are to where you want to be? And have you thought about that?
I feel like some hardships and some things that are like kind of blocking me from my goal. It's just like the odds that are stacked against me being female, being black. I mean, those aren't things that would necessarily hold me back, but they're definitely things that can. And then some resources that I think will like help me get to where I want to be is like, for example, a safe environment in school, not having to think about like what could happen in school or things out of my control at school that could affect like where I want to be in say like 10 years.
Absolutely. So safety, education. What else? What about other people?
I would say just thinking about like where I want to be, and thinking about it this way: if where do I want to be in a year? Where do I want to be in 2 years? All of that leads up to the choices I'm making now, and I would say something that gets in the way of that would probably be a lack of motivation because I need that motivation right now to get me set up for my future. Where I want to be in 2 years depends on my motivation right now, what I'm doing in school, how I'm doing in school, how I'm doing in sports. All of that, all of that depends on my actions right now. And I'm the only person that could get in the way or potentially mess up what I want to have for me in the future.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid to celebrate your small wins, right? Don't be afraid to celebrate that the small thing that you did that helped you get one step closer to where you want to be, right? Even if it's not some big quantum leap that took you from being in Cincinnati to being in LA, or from being in maybe a job to starting a business, whatever that looks like, celebrate those small wins, because the small wins help to snowball into those big wins. Okay. Bronston, have you thought about what will help you get from where you are to where you want to be?
For me, I think the biggest thing that can really help me right now is just like I feel like having positive male role models because, you know, my whole life I've always had strong women around me. You being my aunt, my mom and like our family, we have a lot of strong women in our family, but like it's kind of hard sometimes because it's like I feel like I have a limited like real male role models around me, so sometimes I have to like just get it from like other things. But I feel like God has put me in a position like in my life where some people have came to help me, but I feel like that's the biggest thing that could probably help me right now. Is just you know older like guys that's been through what I'm going through right now to help like lead the way for me. Like that's what help me right now.
So having more black male role models that are, do they have to be black or could they be any background? What?
I mean, preferably because like you know, not that many people like can like relate to the black experience, if that makes sense. So I know preferably, but not saying like that's it. That's all. Preferably though.
Tell us about the Black experience. I know your question is around gun violence for Senate, for State Senate hopeful Sonza. Tell us a little bit about what the Black experience looks like for you. What have you experienced that made gun violence your choice of question?
Okay, so for me personally, like me being 18 and I've lived in Compton in LA for probably for the past I want to say 10, 11 years. I moved out here when I was 6, and I just been staying in Compton, and in that short amount of time, I've lost like a lot of friends to gun violence. Like so, me being 18 was like a big milestone for me because I know a lot of people that didn't make it to see my age, like, and that was like a big issue for me. So like just like for the black experience for me is just it's hard because you have to face death every day from if it whether it's from the police, if it's from even people of our own race, and just like having the odds stacked against us every single day. So I feel like that's the black experience for me. Like it has a lot of pros and it has a lot of cons as well. So that's mhm.
And if you had one thing to say to someone running for state senate, and you were to give them advice on what they could do to help for future generations, what would it be?
For me, I would say to listen to the youth because I feel like we have a lot to say, and sometimes, especially inner city youth, because I feel like we get overlooked a lot because they feel like we might not have the nicest things or we might not be the smartest, but I feel like we've been through the most and we have the most life experiences. So just listening more to everyone in general. Yeah, listening.
Okay. Liberty, same question for you. Tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like. I know you've alluded to it earlier about being a Black female and how that changes the perspective for you. What has that been like being in a district like a Liberty Township and Lakota district? What has that experience been like?
So my school is like primarily white. So, and I've been in this district for like quite a while, and I've also been in districts that were like primarily black. So I like I've seen both sides of it, and there's like a lot of pros and there's a lot of cons too. Like for example, some pros is we do have a better education, we have more resources, and we have a better chance because like our graduation rates are higher and we don't have to worry about as much. But also, some cons are the fact that it is a primarily white school, so you don't get exposed to like your culture as much. So for people like me who want to go to HBCU, when you go to HBCUs, you have culture shock because you're not used. You're getting taught white culture, or you're exposed to white culture, and that's all you know. Even when you do have like black family, like my family's black, you're not around them as much. And also, when you're around like when you're in a primarily white school and you're around mostly white people, that's kind of what you feel like you need to be like. And if you're not like that, you're like perceived differently as to whereas if you were in a black school and you acted how you wanted to act, it was just like, okay, they're acting normal, but like you can't do certain things. You can't say certain things, especially as a Black female, when we have so many stereotypes on us, and there's just so much pressure to be like everyone else, kind of. And when you step out of the box, it's kind of more frowned upon when you're in a primarily white school.
Okay, so you feel like when you're in a white school, you have to try harder to be something else or something that people want you to
When you're in a white school, you kind of have to like step back. Like you can't if you put yourself out there too much, you're like the ghetto Black girl. And then like if you don't put yourself out there enough, then it's just like you're lame or whatever. But there's also like so many double standards to resort where it's like if I were to do something as a Black female that's like ghetto, it's like ew. But if a white girl were to do it, it would be like completely different.
it will be considered m- uh, edgy, right? If a white girl does it, then it's like, oh, she's edgy. But if a black girl does it, then all of a sudden you're being too ghetto, you're being too black.
Yeah.
So there is it's a fine line, right? And we have to, as I say, we have to code switch a lot just to exist in this world. And I think from what you were saying, I can relate in a lot of ways because I, from age 0 to 10, was in a very white environment. And then from 10 to 18, I was in a very urban environment. Grew up in Lincoln Heights here in the city of Cincinnati. And I knew by the time I was 18, I needed something to balance me out because I would have become, um, I don't know, I think I would have been like either a rapper or something really urban because I almost went like way to the other side of the spectrum. But it is similar to what you're saying in that I got into a comfortable place, right? And that comfortable place allowed for me to be more of myself. Not that that was a bad thing, but it it didn't allow for me to be as refined as I needed to be in order to survive in today's world. Because it's one thing to be black, but it's another thing to be able to go in and out of worlds, black, white, Asian, and be able to hold your own,
Right.
right? And still be authentic about who you are, right? So don't ever feel like you have to die to who you are in order to be in a room.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Jazz, do you want to answer that same question? Talk.
Yes, I do. Um, as a person who only time I've been around a primarily white group of people was or is at sports events because a lot of people outside of Cincinnati or outside the Cincinnati area are primarily white and they have primarily white sports teams. So in that, like, it's a lot to face. But I grew up in Avondale and seeing that, like, she's right. We don't really have the same educational opportunities as other students that haven't grown up in very urban areas. Like, I go to Don right now. Don is a community high school, and with that, we definitely do not have like the same opportunities. Even as a CBS school, even with the like a public school, we don't have the same learning opportunities at all. So I feel like yeah, this is definitely a big problem.
And so when you think about the Senate or anything political per se, what would you ask someone that was running on a political side of things, and what do you think that they could do in order to level that playing field for you from an education standpoint?
As much people or as much money that gets poured into white schools, why can't that money from why can't that same amount of money be poured into urban schools? It's like not or white schools have full libraries filled with books. You have whole computer rooms, football stadiums, tennis courts, all of this stuff. That's golf courses. That's another thing. I just went to a football game in Columbus, and they had a whole golf team with a whole golf course. How much, as much as that money that got poured into that golf course alone or that tennis stadium alone, all of that could get poured into urban schools and urban learning centers, and all of that could help us. So why not pour that same amount of money into our schools?
All right, that's a good question. We have 3 minutes, so I'm going to allow each one of you guys to ask a question that can go to anyone that is in government to assist us in making sure that our future is bright, not only for our white counterparts, but for our diverse counterparts as well. So who wants to ask the first question for our people running for political office?
Can I answer first?
Go ahead, Bronson.
My question would be to them is, what is their position on gun control and gun reform in America right now?
Okay. What is their position on gun control and gun reform? Liberty?
My question is the economic state of the world or of America right now declining due to COVID. So how are we going to spur the economy in Ohio?
All right. How are they going to spur the economy, specifically in Ohio? Jazz, what was your question?
With our public schools consistently failing us, what do you plan on doing to improve education of students?
All right, there we have it. We have heard from our future, our young people. This has been a Teen Summit edition. We appreciate all of you guys joining us tonight. We're sorry that Orlando Sonza couldn't join, but we'll make sure that he answers those questions, and we will put it back out for the people to see his response. And with that, do you want to give us a salute? Any salute for the end of the show? All right. Well, we appreciate you guys. And again, we want to make sure that we are considering the future, and we know that all of you guys have bright futures ahead of you. We want to make sure that the politicians and that the folks that are in government hear from you, that they take into account what you have to say, and we will make sure that everything that we've talked about today is delivered to them so that they can address it. Thanks again, and with that, we'll go ahead and close out and thank our sponsors.
Today's episode of The Plug is sponsored by the following companies. At the platinum level, we have Sonza for Ohio State Senate. Orlando Sonza is running for Ohio State Senate for the 9th District. He will work to achieve a safer community and stronger economy for Greater Cincinnati. Vote Sonza for Senate on November 8th. Paid for by Friends of Sonza. Our gold level sponsor is World Apparel Co. World Apparel Co. is a nonprofit organization using culture and fashion to help spread awareness for the many social issues that plague the world. They utilize their platform and donations to help provide solutions and resources to the organizations that deal directly with the affected communities. You can support World Apparel Co. by visiting worldapparelco.com and following them on social media at World Apparel Co. on Twitter and Instagram. And last but certainly not least, our silver level sponsor, Greg Landsman. Greg Landsman is a staunch advocate for Southwest Ohio families. Greg has spent his career fighting for working families. He is now in his 5th year as Cincinnati councilman and now running for Congress to make government work for us by lowering costs, repairing our roads and bridges, and making it easier to raise a family. Vote Greg Landsman on November 8th. For more information, go to landsmanforcongress.com, paid for by Landsman for Congress. The Plug thanks all of our sponsors for helping us keep you connected.